Yo, yo, yo. This is Jonathan from the Theolodudes podcast. Say what's up, Vasquez.
What is up?
Say what's up, Joseph.
What's up?
This is the Theolodudes team. That can reach us at theolodudes.com, or you can search for us on Apple iTunes. And we also have a YouTube channel, guys, so you can subscribe, leave a comment. We're also racing against PewDiePie. We're trying to reach 70 million subscribers too. So T-Series, PewDiePie, here we come.
They're trying to get 70 million. We're trying to get 70. That's what we're trying to get.
Wait, like 70 million or 70?
I'll let that at your interpretation.
But we also have a Facebook. So search for us, guys. Befriend us. We'll automatically just add you because we need friends.
We need Facebook friends. My name is Joseph Garcia, so you could find me there.
So it's Joseph Garcia, Jonathan Moreno, Emmanuel Vasquez.
Yes, sir.
It's been a while since we did an episode, man. So
It has been.
it's been a long time.
Very busy.
Been very, very busy. We're actually gonna be doing the confession starting next week. We're gonna be doing the 1689 London Baptist Confession.
That sounds awesome.
So we're going to be going through it. We're going to be giving the historical background of it. And we're going to be commentating on every chapter of the LBC. And it's going to be him, myself, and the other pastor, Brandon, who's going to be doing it. So I'm excited for that, guys.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, the election was here in Texas.
It was.
And it was pretty close.
We're just scared for a little bit. I was scared for a bit. I was like, oh snap. Beto. No, sorry. Beto was winning for a little bit.
He was winning for a little bit, but I wasn't
It was
scared.
close to the end too. There was only like 4 point something percent left in votes. And I was like, oh snap.
Yeah, it was pretty close. I mean, they spent like $75 million in his campaign.
Woo.
And Ted Cruz only spent 23 or 25 million.
Dang.
So it was
Goodness.
Yeah, it was a lot of money that they used to promote Beto. But it was a good interesting election.
What's the rich guy's name that's always given to like Black Lives Matter and what's his name?
Soros.
George Soros. He didn't help out Beto.
Man, I don't know anything about that stuff. The one that we need to talk about on that stuff is Jonathan Garcia. He's not
Jonathan Garcia.
say anything right now. But we do want to give a few shout outs. We want to give a shout outs to Donna.
Donna. Yeah.
Donna.
What's up, Donna?
That girl,
Shout
Donna.
out to you, Donna.
She's a great assistant in the church.
My big sister.
Yes, a great
Your
assistant.
big sister.
They have this little weird relationship where like
What do you mean weird, dude?
he's like the little brother and she's his older sister. So that makes me his brother-in-law.
Vasquez, you're
Yeah.
25, right? 24?
Yeah.
25?
Yeah.
And Donna's 27, gonna be 28. Big sister.
Well, it's still big sister.
I mean, still it
regardless.
is. I mean, come on. I mean, like,
But yeah, so
how old is your brother? He's your big brother, or older brother, right?
He is. He beats me by 2 minutes.
See?
is
What's
he-
the difference?
Is he big brother?
He is my big brother,
Okay,
technically.
then. So he's 1 year older.
I guess.
Hata? Huh?
It's just that we're, literally brothers.
But yeah, also shout out to Josue, the camera guy,
All right, what's up?
and Vanessa, who's right here, also in the camera, moving
Camera
the camera,
people
zooming
making
in,
it
zooming
happen
out.
with the cameras over there.
Zoom into Jonah's left eye. Look at
Just
that.
his left eye. And the left side of his left eye.
Why are you zooming into my face? All right, so we're gonna be talking about an interesting topic, guys.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be really sharing out our heart. We're gonna be talking about how we used to do things in our church and how it was kind of, just to be blunt, cultish. So we're gonna be kind of like giving y'all some marks of a cult, like the psychology of the cult, so that you guys can be aware of any church that's like that, so y'all can either run away from that church or just try to change it. But it's really like a warning, right? Yeah. So we're gonna be giving like some marks that makes a cult, and so we're gonna be doing that. But we're not gonna be doing the doctrinal type of cult. because there's two different types of codes. There's like the doctrinal, theological codes, but there's also like the psychological type of codes. Like you can be doctrinally sound, but still run like a cult. Okay, right?
Correct.
And there's some churches that are pretty good in their theology, but they run pretty much like a cult.
Yeah, their methods within the organization or church.
Yeah,
is
So-
interesting.
so like a doctrinal code would be like a group of people that kind of like strays away from like the fundamental truths of the religion. It could be like Islam, Jews. Islam does have cults in their own mainstream religion.
Oh, I see.
Jews have cults as well. Like there's this cult in the Jewish religion. It's called the Christian Jews. Science Jews, and it's kind of like the Christian Science stuff, but like in the Jewish religion. Islam has cults too. Baha'i came from Islam. Christianity, we have a bunch of cults.
Yeah.
They leave fundamental truths of Christianity, like
Jehovah's Witnesses.
yeah, like Jehovah's Witnesses reject the deity of Christ, salvation by faith alone, and other important doctrinal things.
Mm-hmm.
Mormons are very doctrinally occult. Basically everything, at least Jehovah's Witnesses, we have some things in common. It's something very minimum. But Mormons, it's like we have nothing in common.
Even though they use the same terminology.
Yes, they talk about. They're not even monotheist. They believe in many gods. They believe that God the Father was once a man. They believe that Jesus Christ and the devil have always been. They were brothers, spiritual brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a lot of things that are just anti-Christian. Okay, we have the World Mission Society Church of God, another cult. They're both doctrinally a cult and they're also psychologically a cult. But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, they leave fundamental truths, which could be original sin, different definitions of the word grace and faith.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
God.
Salvation by faith alone.
Yeah,
Stuff like
So-
that.
that's a doctrinal cult, and then you have the psychological cult. All right, and that's when it could be doctrinally okay, sound, but they function as a cult. So psychological cult is just focusing on their behavior and not really on their doctrine. Okay, so here's where it becomes a little. Okay, so here's where we say that our church in the past was doctrinally sound because we believed in a lot of orthodox teachings,
The fundamentals.
Mhm.
the fundamentals, and we were very
The
strong in it.
essentials.
But because we had a wrong church structure, it kind of like unintentionally led to like a psychological cult. I don't think our leaders did it on purpose. At least not some of them. Probably just one of them did it on purpose. But most of our leaders, I think they unintentionally did it like that.
It's basically they were brought up that way and it just kind of flowed.
It flowed naturally from that. But it was still functioning as a cult. So what are the signs of a psychological cult? Well, we have at least 5 that I think could like be a good starting place. But one mark is having an authoritative and unaccountable leader. All right? An authoritative, unaccountable leader. See, a lot of times people think that a cult is like having like a prophet, guru type of person. All right? Like David Koresh, he was kind of like a modern prophet. And you have to, in order for you to be a cult leader, you have to be one of those kinds. But not really. You can still be just a regular dude, but be authoritative and unaccountable by its members or by other churches. So it's like a more general picture. Now in that unauthoritative, accountable leaders. It can be a guru type. It could be a modern prophet type. It could be just a regular Joe.
And this usually seems to be like only one person, right? Not like one person that's at the top. That's what it seems like.
Usually it's like
right.
one person, but it could be two or more. But usually it's just one, because usually people who are like have that cultic mentality, there's a lot of power struggle between even themselves. That's when they start dividing and having little sex, you know. But usually it's just one. Yeah.
And sometimes they may even word things like, you know, we're still held accountable with you guys, the members. Sometimes you know, you can hear that language like as in, yeah, I may be the leader, but I'm still held accountable. But the issue with that, and this is where it gets psychological, and that is automatically when you have that position already, and the members have been like under that style, it's already like presumed or automatic. It's like automatic that they just respond to you. They respond to you because of that position that you have. So whether you say I'm still accountable to you, there's still that element of like, I guess like almost like a reverence or a fear to go against.
And it could not be like, in order for it to be accountable, like the members have to have some form of power.
That's
but
true.
Sometimes those leaders just say that so you can think it, but in reality you have no power. You cannot vote him out. You cannot vote anything in. You cannot vote for us to go to another church to see if it's true or if it's, you know, okay. No, because that leader will reject it. It's more like just words so that you can feel good about it.
Yeah, accountable how? I mean, you have to have some form of something to show that accountability. Even like information was usually always withheld. I know there may be some, but there has to be some information shared. I mean, how else can you be accountable if we can't say anything?
Yeah, so
how are we gonna be accountable?
The members they really cannot really hold that leader accountable if there's no other church that can help that church be held accountable. Because sometimes there are new members, and new members don't really know about theology. They only know about what the pastor or that leader told them. So they cannot really, everything they've learned is from that man. So, you know, yeah. So, and I mean, we'll be honest. In some of in our church structure, we had that our leaders weren't accountable, but we were isolated as a church. We had no accountability, and our members didn't really have that knowledge to confront the pastor, because they didn't really know anything about church government. They didn't know much about how a proper leader, how proper elders, the distinction between the jurisdictions of elders into people's lives. You know, so
yeah, that wasn't taught, shown, explained.
Which is important, learning about church government, church politics, of the roles of elders. That's very important. And these kind of churches, they don't really focus on that. It's just one senior pastor or one leader, and it's them who runs the whole show. And if you have that, then I would warn you to keep that man accountable. Keep him accountable. Go to a different church, another church, and talk about. If they don't let you go to another church, then you leave that church. Leave it, run away.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not told you can't go to other churches like bluntly, but rather the ambiguous, or I don't say ambiguous, but the language that they use to kind of euphemize it in a way is to say there are some churches that teach, you know, well out there. I just don't know of any, me personally, like of a good sound teaching church. And so like it's like a subtle way of kind of discouraging someone to go and find counsel outside or ask for tips. And it could go to the extent like what we had is studying other topics as well, or other topics or perspectives on topics. That was pretty, I would say, discouraged in the beginning. So, you know, if you did that, you had to do it underneath
their way, underneath them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So can you give like an example of something like that, Joseph?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I remember one time I was riding with my and this is how we called it. We called the organization leaders, we would call them spiritual leaders, which you'll never hear that word in the Bible used for a position in the church. But so, I was riding in the vehicle, and there was a comment made. I think we had done some work on campus, and I explained of an event, and it was brought about that he couldn't understand why somebody would go against doctrine that his teacher had taught before, because he had his own spiritual leader or discipler. That's what we call it, disciplers or spiritual leaders. And so that was like the first sign of I was like, what do you mean you can't understand? Like, people have different perspectives, it's one thing on the essentials of Christianity, biblical salvation, etc. But there's other things on just like other adiaphora.
Are you saying that so I'm not sure if I understood you, that you were kind of like challenging a doctrine, and he said, why would somebody challenge your leader?
No, it was more like, it was just a story of an event. I was sharing an event on campus, and then it led to him explaining how he couldn't understand how people went against his teacher. And I was like, on particular doctrines, and I was like, okay, well, people have different perspectives. I didn't say it verbally, but that was just a sign. And so then whenever I started studying up on predestination specifically, we didn't believe in free will in the sense of like salvation, man chooses, and we're I guess I want to say partially reformed in that. But I started studying up on a topic, and I brought it up that God has predestined all things for his sovereign glory, and etc., and the attitude against that was heavy on me. The language, it was like the authoritative position of it, and and this is just how I felt. I felt a bit I felt intimidated. Now I had studied enough to make my argument, but imagine someone who had not studied the topic at all, and they're coming to certain conclusions. That person would have just been greatly discouraged, and I personally was discouraged to have the comfortableness to talk about different things. And so that led me to want to study more things, but underneath the table, and it was like a recurring thing because of that intimidation of the authority.
So it was authoritative in the sense that it controlled what you studied.
Yeah,
it was unaccountable because it would not let you were not able to go to other places to kind of like challenge the doctrines, because it was like, this is the doctrine, and it would not be challenged by any other type of leaders besides what we give you. And it was authoritative that it controlled your education.
Yeah, we were told to mainly study read only the books that we have, the recommended books. That was the only books that were recommended to read, and that's it. If there was further books to read, we were limited.
Yeah, it's funny.
We had to actually bring it up for permission in a way. Hey, I got this book. It's like, oh well, do you know who it is? And all
it's funny because I've always read Gordon Clark, even because I have the same structure. We're all on the same boat here. We had a recommended list book. We could not read anything outside of it, but I always loved to read, so I always read. I used to wake up at 5:30 in the morning just to read Gordon Clark stuff. I had to read books on on post trip or even post mill, just to kind of like be familiar with it. And it's because we were not allowed to read other people's stuff.
That's true. I had a similar experience too with that. I would want to listen to more like James White and other different reformers or other different
authors.
Podcast authors. And I remember one time I was listening to, I was at work. I had time to actually listen to some audios, and I was listening to James White share on church history, and I was like, man, this stuff is awesome. I was liking it, but then I was discouraged to keep listening to it because it was said, first finish everything that we have in our library before you start listening outside. But that kind of kept me from listening to stuff outside, because I was like, but I want to listen to this stuff. Is good. Like, I don't understand why I shouldn't listen to it, man. This thing was awesome.
Don't get us wrong, some of the reading material was actually pretty good. A lot of it was very like strong dispensationalism stuff, but it was still pretty good stuff. I mean, it wasn't like bad books. It was still decent books.
The challenge is the big discouragement to study other things, and it was promoted by the authority position.
Yeah.
Like another example of authoritativeness was at least from Vasquez and you and me. So this is not regarding your spiritual leader. On our behalf, like our leader was very authoritative in the sense of very demanding, like very you had to do certain things his way, done specifically, and if it wasn't done that way, then it was not deemed as good, like disobeying your spiritual leader, to the point where like it was a little bit tenseful sometimes, especially during like in dinner times and driving times during traffic hours. But the point is, the authoritative leader is unaccountable. He wants everything done his way, and there's nothing you can really do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you disobey, it's like you're disobeying God himself.
Yeah.
Because they were put there by God, and they thought that an elder really represents, or a leader represents, is control of all areas of your life. They don't have that division between church government, personal government, church government, family government, and just federal government. They don't have those distinctions. It was all controlling everything.
Yeah.
And that happens in a lot of churches. Not only in ours, but in a lot of other cottage churches. But another mark is having a source of doctrine outside the Bible. You know, a lot of times a cult has like an extra source outside the Bible for its members. It could be like the Book of Mormon, the Pearl of Great Price, you know, all those things. Mm-hmm. The World Mission Society has the books of Ash, Aung San Hong. It has his books, and it has the sermons of their new leader. That's like the authoritative thing now. But it's not the scriptures. It's their books. Mm-hmm. The Jehovah's Witnesses have like their Watchtower Society magazines. So that becomes kind of like their
source of...
Yeah. We didn't really have that. We believed in sola scriptura.
We were pretty good on that.
We were not even King James only. We were like, you know, we were pretty good at that.
We're NASBers.
No, but we're still accepted. We still accepted the ESV, but just in our church to be unified, we read the New American, and that's okay in the church to do that. So all of us could read the same passage. So I don't think we really have that, but a lot of people do have that. If your church has that, like others, and it could be sources like visions too, like the whole apostolic movement, the new apostolic movement, like or even that, like their leaders have like special visions, dreams, you know,
revelation outside of the scriptures.
Yeah, I was like, for example, like Sosa and I, we were at the Montgomery campus here at the Lone Star up by Woodlands, and this lady comes up to us and she told us that her pastor told them that by the end of the year there was going to be a revival in this campus of like 10,000 converts. So that was his vision. So everybody in the church focused on trying to be in Lone Star. Now there was no big revival, but still that pastor's vision kind of like got everybody moving. And it happens a lot. The pastor sees a dream for you to give him money, you know. So it's pretty crazy. The third mark, it's subtle or overt isolation of members. Subtle or overt isolation. What does that mean? It's like the church becomes so independent that it's really not. Well, it kind of goes with like number one. It's not accountable to anybody because it isolates itself. It's very isolated. So there's a difference between being independent. You know, churches are independent. Like even in the confession in the LBC, on the chapter of the church, it says that the local church is sovereign. The leaders The other people from other churches can come and give counsel, but ultimately, the decision holds to the church. Local sovereignty, that's a Baptist thing. Congregationalism. Every church is responsible for its own function. But you don't have to be isolated. And some churches are isolated. They don't want to hear anything from any other members. They have no confession. They have nothing. They're just completely isolated. And they isolate their members. And it could be so subtle, or it can be just very direct.
Yeah, I think ours was more subtle. I didn't get the direct, but I got it subtle. Like, it seemed that our church was doing the best, so there's no reason to go to other churches that gave a little subtle isolation. It wasn't necessarily direct, but that led, at least for me, it led me to say, well, then I see no point to go to other churches because we're doing the best.
Yeah, I think also the other way that it was for us is when we talked about the subtle discouragement to going to other churches. I just had it right now, but it basically used particular language that I forgot it.
You forgot?
I forgot it. I just had it right now.
Let me give you an example, of somebody that's overt, somebody that's directly telling you to be isolated, and some Jehovah's Witnesses. The Jehovah's Witnesses are very isolated.
Oh yeah.
No, birthday parties, and very. They isolate their groups a lot from the world, and when they mean the world, it's anybody that's not Jehovah's Witness. The World Mission Society Church of God tells its members that the Catholics are the whore of Babylon, and that the Protestant churches are the daughters of the whore. So if you hang out with the Protestants, then you're hanging out with the daughters of the whore, and you'd be tainted. We're the only true church, and Mormonism was like that in the beginning too. But now Mormonism is kind of they want to be more Christian now. They want to be more postmodern. They want to be more let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. We're all Christians. But back in the days, they were very forceful. Calling every denominations, abomination.
Ecumenical now?
They're a little bit more ecumenical. But the World Mission, they're very direct. You can hang out with families. They tell you not to go to Christmas because Christmas is a pagan holiday. Easter is another pagan holiday, and they isolate their members a lot. I've heard testimonies of how they isolated them from their family.
Yeah. Okay. So I just remembered. So one thing that we did, or our leaders.
So yours is more subtle.
Ours was more subtle, and the subtle way of bringing it about was, we don't want to join up with other churches, and get coupled with them, because they would say that it was okay in a way to join with churches, but not for us, because then if we go, they're gonna want to switch up our methods, or they're gonna want to change the structure, change doctrine, or change
say
structure.
that we're wrong in some way.
Yeah. And therefore, it's better not for us to do that because we have something good going on. So that was the way that it was phrased.
And they would say things like, those churches, a lot of churches have the gospel wrong. A lot of churches have evangelism wrong. A lot of churches have it. It was very critical towards the church. Very critical. I don't think we ever had a good church out there. We always criticized something about the churches that it was very bad. Whether they were not dispensationalists, whether they had a wrong, kind of the lordship type salvation type of gospel, that it was in doing evangelism. We never had a good church we can always send to people. It was always, don't go to any churches but ours, and if you're going to do a church, start your own church.
It seems
it was more like us versus every church out there.
It seems like the standard was put on that ours is the standard. What we do is good. It's best.
Now, we did listen to other, the audio selection that we did have. We did have teachers like John MacArthur. They had Josh McDowell, obviously big Baptist, dispensational, etc., etc. We had some of that stuff, and so that was encouraged to listen to their audios on those topics. Luis Palau, stuff like that with missions, but other topics that may, with those teachers, it was always challenged.
They controlled everything,
or held back.
They controlled every intake of knowledge.
Yeah.
And like, even if it was good stuff, I mean, it's okay, but like, just the principle of them controlling everything.
Yeah.
Like you were like we mentioned earlier, you weren't able to read anything that was outside of the books we had or the audios that we had. So anything from Gordon Clark, anything from Greg Bonson, anything from Dr. James White, anything from the Puritans, anything from there, like it was deemed as bad.
I mean, and that makes sense because the founder came from Moody Bible Institute, and he had structured that way. I mean, those were the books that he read. So he probably had, and again, I mean, just to clarify, because we're not like downing on the specific spiritual leaders that we had, in a sense that like they're like evil people. It's just that they were brought up or trained, because we had a training program. They were trained in that way, and so I'm not saying that they're still like that. There has been changes as time went on. The language has changed as time went on. There's other aspects of change as well. I mean, that brought those things, but
But we're just saying
it's hard.
how it just. I mean, we're just being honest here. The way
Yeah.
it ran, and it's not only for us. Like me reading this article, when I read it, because I'm gonna link the article that we're getting this from. When I read it, I was like, wow, a lot of it is actually talking about how we were doing it, how our church was doing it, and I was like, you know what? I want to talk about this so that people can be either warned, or so people can know a little bit more about us, and that so people from our past can understand why they probably had those experiences, because we did a lot of things that were very bad. Like, not us, because we were just the members, but we're still responsible. And this is one thing I want to tell you guys when I do the confession, that the members are also responsible. You cannot say, well, my leader told me this, because the Bible tells that the church is responsible to keep the elders accountable. So we cannot pass on the blame on just the leaders. So what happened in our old church, we were young people, so we were ignorant. But now I want to train you guys to be like, the members are also responsible of church discipline, responsible of keeping false teachers away. They're responsible of confronting, the elders. Like in the verse where it says, when somebody's offended you, you go to him privately, and if he doesn't listen, you take 2 or more witnesses, right? And if he still doesn't repent, you take it to the church, not the elders, the church, and the church brings that discipline. So we didn't have any of that. So I want to do this podcast so every person that was in our old church can hear this and understand where we went wrong and how we're doing some changes now. Okay, but yeah, so it was very isolated. Like, we couldn't go to any other churches. We couldn't do any activities with any ministry in campus. It was just campus Christians. Like the Baptist student ministry, bad. Any other ministry that was there, bad. It was only us versus them, and it was, very, very isolated.
Yeah, I think there was a try in trying to couple or get together in one way, like a long time ago, but it didn't really work out.
It was kind of like had the attitude of like we're like the only church that is doing it right.
Yeah.
That was like our mentality. Like any other church form, every other church is not doing it correctly, and we're like the only ones. So it kind of became like us versus the church versus the world.
Yeah, and the leaders or people may say like, well, that wasn't like what I got out of it or whatever. That's not how I took it. But the general consensus of the people was that this is the language used, and when you use this language, when you're talking this way, and even we talked about and studied in logic the accents, how important our fluctuations of voices are. Like anybody who came into our group for a numerous amount of time, they would detect those things.
You gonna fix it, Josué, and say hi to the camera?
Hi to the camera.
Arriba los Rayados, la adicción, Houston.
they would they would detect it, you know, as an amount of time that this group is a little more secluded and it's interesting, and it almost seems like it's just them. Anybody who's been there for an amount of time, they would pick that up.
Yeah,
they would pick it up. You know?
Yeah, we had to be clear in our language.
And then we were taught how to defend that as well. We were taught how to, like, well, that's not true. And then we were taught language as well on how to defend that aspect, that how we don't have that attitude, and we actually are spiritual. We are spiritual in the way, and so it went deep.
I guess so you guys can understand a little bit more. Those who don't know where we came from, like those who are like Tim Shaughnessy and people who listen, you know, like who don't know what campus Christians were. Well, we had a program where we moved in. The food timers we moved in the church house, and we would stay there basically for 4 or 5 years, right? And there was leaders that would basically train you to evangelize, to read, and so that's what we did. And every group had like a spiritual leader, like Joseph mentioned. It kind of had like the whole navigators type of
the never daters. That's what they
I
met a couple. They said they called it the never daters. They were in
so we kind of like try to do that, you know, because that's where our pastor came from.
Yeah.
So we lived in the house, and there's where we became very like controlling. So like we moved into the house, and we were told not to go to other churches. We were able to visit only our families on Saturdays, but we had a curfews to when to come back home. It sounds kind of like ridiculous, you know?
Yeah, but
it was masquerade, like as in, you know, these are ministry rules and policies. And I do understand that there's like seminaries as well, and colleges, and Christian colleges, that they put limitations on students. You know, hey, you know, some of them will have dress code. Some of them were like be in your dorm room by 10. You know, those things are understandable. But there was certain things about ours that.
Well, I would not say that's understandable, because I don't think they should put a time limit of when you can visit family, friends.
Well, true.
Because if you're doing your homework and you're doing everything that's required, then they don't got to control that aspect in your life. Not even a university, not even a church, they don't have that authority. Because if you want to see your families for whatever reason on a Thursday, then the church has no...
Or for however long. As long as you're doing everything that you need to be doing. It'd be not even your wife can do that. Not even your husband. Well, probably your husband different. But anyways, I don't want to get to all that.
That's another government there.
So the point is, like it was, you know, they isolated us from your families because you couldn't leave. Monday through Fridays, you couldn't leave. Only Saturdays.
It was viewed as not best doing that, or not to do it during.
But you weren't able to do it, because if you decide to do it, you get in trouble.
Yeah, you get in trouble really.
And if you did it again, you'd probably be kicked out.
It's like taxation.
But so it was. Now looking back at it, man, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds very silly. When you're in it, you're like, you know what? I'm trying to do things for the Lord. You know, unity. But now looking back, I'm like, we should have stood up earlier.
Yeah. But the thing about us is that, well, at least for me, I mean, I didn't have much Christian training or knowledge. I became a Christian on the college campus with the group, because it did have a sound gospel, you know, and I appreciate that still. I'm not degrading the goods or the positives that came from it. God was sovereign, and I believe it was all providence to the point that I'm at right now. Lots of things in maturity, but the aspects of limiting and controlling, that's where it went sour.
So that brings us to the next one, which is the control over. The fourth mark is controlling the members' decisions, and it kind of like brings some sadness, you know, to be honest, because there's a lot of good memories. It's a lot of good memories in Campus Christians. You know, I have a bunch of memories with you guys, with Fino, the Cobos family, with Elazar, you know, Arroyo, with Jeffrey.
Yeah,
I mean, they had good memories. Michael Bell,
Yeah.
Matt. So this podcast is for you guys too. We've had very good memories. Bike riding, staying late, playing Monopoly one time.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I wasn't there for that one.
We have very good memories. So it's not us trying to just bash our old church. It's just kind of giving warnings of some of the things that did happen that was very cultish.
That was not good.
And to the point of being a psychological cult. But like one was controlling over members' decisions. And looking back at this, man, I'm like, wow. They control every aspect of your decision making. I remember going to the ARC trip, and
in Kentucky, yeah.
In Kentucky.
This is not too long back.
Yeah, it was a year ago, and the girls and the lab members didn't enjoy the trip as much because everything was very controlling. Who do you talk to? How long to talk to? Who to take pictures with? And that destroyed a lot of friendships. Not destroyed it, but it brought a lot of tension to the trip. And this is the time, one of the first times the members, not the live-ins, because remember there's most of the members were live-ins, but there was just also members that would come without being live-ins. That's when they started getting a taste of how it was being a live-in. Because when you're a live-in, this was just normal. Those limitations.
Yeah.
So they felt very stressed. And right now we're talking to Vanessa and Josue in the background. They shared their experiences, how it was in the trip. Like they weren't able to take pictures with each other because they had these weird rules where the guys couldn't really talk to the girls. Like we couldn't talk to the girls.
Too long. Well, at least in the trip, we were.
Even in the church, like guys weren't able to talk to girls. Oh yeah,
that's true.
Like the only times we could talk to girls was on Fridays and Sundays. And even then, it was still very limited because they wanted you to be focused with the guys.
Your training. Being single-minded.
Yeah, there's this. It seemed like, at least to me, that the view of serving God is over being married. Like that's what it almost seemed like. So they kind of push or slow down whatever.
Yeah, so they control those decisions. They also control the decisions of marriage, because our leaders were very single. They promoted singleness as being like the number one thing you can do, and marriage was like second best. Like you were downgrading. If you got married, you're
doing second best.
You were doing God's second best. Of course, God can use it, but you would just be second best.
Yeah, you could have done more.
You could have done more being a single man.
And then the other part of that was, if you choose less, knowing that you could have done more, they would say you're in sin.
Yeah. So it's like they used to say things like, the good is the enemy of the best.
Oh man.
So even though marriage is okay, but it was the enemy of the best. So then it became like, and it's weird because I talked to some of the leaders, and they were saying that no, we didn't promote that, but they did. And it was kind of weird because when I talked to the members, even people from like the past, like even people who you guys don't know, like from the past, they all agree with us that they promoted singleness. It wasn't just me reading into things. Everybody that was in the ministry saw that way, that marriage was deemed as not good. It was talked about very negative. And it was singleness, so they controlled that aspect. If you want to get married or have a girlfriend or whatever, you couldn't. And if you did, then you had to leave the church.
And it was quite a process to, if you wanted to initiate.
Yeah.
So people left, people got kicked out, people just got discouraged not to date. Some people dated still or talked to girls behind their back, and they'll get, they found out, they'll get mad, kick them out, and it was very, very bad. So they controlled that decision of your marriage, dating life, and everything. They also controlled who do you talk to. They control who you can talk to. Like you weren't able to talk to people from the past. You weren't able to have a Facebook because they didn't want you to talk to people from the past. You weren't able to have. That's why we never really had a Facebook until recently. You weren't able to talk to girls, only on Fridays and Sundays. You weren't able to talk to people who left the church.
No, yeah, never contact them. They're in sin.
You can never be in contact with them. You can be cordial and say hi, but you cannot talk to them.
Yeah, like having gatherings and like just meeting up with them every now and then. Like it was said, at least to me, it was like, yeah, I mean, you could, and and you could hang out with them every now and then, but don't make it like a.
No, but that was more like later on.
That was later on.
That was way later on. Whenever we started being a little more vocal.
Yeah.
But before that, it was like, like no, like, and we'll name names. Like, I mean, just be honest here. Like Eric. This is for you, Eric. We didn't do our part. We should have disobeyed. Eric Fino.
Mm-hmm.
We could have just disobeyed, because one of the roles of the church is to restore a brother. It's not just to remove him and let him die on his own, but it's to restore him. And if we can't do it as a church, then still look up for him and find a way where he can be in a good church, but we not to abandon them completely. So I'm not against church discipline or disfellowshipping from our church, but the job is to restore.
The end goal is restoration.
If they cannot come back to our church because our members are not ready, like there's some people that we have this fellowship that we probably we don't want back because we just can't do it. Our members have been affected by it so much that we probably prefer that person to be like in another church, and hopefully that church is restoring him. But our goal is to restore. At least that's our. And Fino, we some of those guys we never did anything afterwards. Elazar, we just
Daniel.
Daniel Lahai.
These things were very discouraged to communicate, and then it was not told to the members. They just the members specifically. So like apart from the live-ins, the members just stopped seeing the person. And they're like, well, what happened? And all that was told to them was, this person no longer is here. It was an act of discipline or whatever, and that's it. That's all they were told. And they're like, well, what? Live-ins were told, hey, look, this person's living in sin. Or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
And it kind of goes back to like the whole church polity, because of again, if you have this view of church government where like the senior pastor is the one in charge of everything, he becomes like the mini pope of the church. He becomes like the mini pope, like, and he's like the voice of God, and he controls everything. And we don't have that type of, that's what we had. Our church structure was like that. And so that's the importance of having a good church polity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this whole
That's
senior
true.
pastor led one man, it's not good.
Phooey.
Concur.
I'll use
I
that
concur.
Phooey.
Not only senior pastor, but having like this Episcopalian type of government where like the senior pastors in control of everything. Because there's still churches that have senior pastors, but the church still, votes them out because they're more like a congregationalist type. And but it's probably better having. It's better having elders, because that's what the Bible says.
Multiple
elders. But anyway, so they control a lot of decisions, man. And it's
like finances too, the way we used our finances.
Yeah, and it's weird because I was trying to make it more like general for like everybody, but it's just kind of like naturally going to us, because when I read this article, like I said, man, I saw us.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
And I want to make sure that, because I want to leave it general for like other churches too, but we're just sharing our experiences. But and another thing that was done was like controlling even the whole, and I want to focus on this one again, the whole dating thingy. I think that's very important. Like some people got in trouble because they wanted to date, they wanted to be married, but we didn't have a way to express it, because of our leadership was very vocal about singleness. So the members knew, like, if we got married or dated, we were not going to be approved by our elders, our leader. But then we're also isolated, so we couldn't go like, well, you know what? Well, I can go leave another church and find another church. because you were like, you had the me versus the church. Everybody's doing it wrong. So you didn't want to be unfaithful. So a lot of times people did things secretly. They dated secretly, or they started doing things secretly, and it just became chaotic, like no accountability. And some people sinned from the past because there was no counseling in that. Not only there was no counseling, but there was pushover, and we would remove them, and we would also would not talk to them. So it was like this fellowship, and we would just completely shut them out.
And it's very unhealthy, like
Very unhealthy.
Spiritually, maturity. Yeah. That's the most terrible thing you can do is push someone alone, not having other resources to go to have restoration of themselves, thinking that, and these people have built their whole lives in this organization, Campus Christians organization. That's what we named that like that. And then just to be left with nothing, they have nothing to go to. Relationships broken. Like I think of me like a really great relationship that I had, and it was basically torn apart. No communication at all. And there's repercussions now, and God is sovereign over all things. And again, there's great things. But
like there was.
Messes it up.
I mean, I can edit it out if you want me to, but like your relationship with the Cobos family went down the drain because of the whole ministry type. Yeah. Your friendship with Eleazar also went down the drain. I mean, just keep it real here. Luckily for me, like Lord, was sovereign in my life as well, and I'm thankful for that. But I really didn't lose any friends that I actually had in the church, because you guys you've been my friend. We actually grew closer whenever we went to Harvest.
Separated.
Yeah. But so you're still a friend of mine. Brandon, my sister, Donna, people who I were friends with would stay with me. Everybody who left, they weren't really as close to me. Like Eleazar, Fino, they were not really as close, but I still feel for it now. I'm not looking back as being a pastor and all that. I look back and I'm like, whoa, we did things horrible.
Terrible church government.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible church government, terrible everything.
Terrible.
But anyways, we can stay on these topics for a long time, but we're gonna go to the next one. It's gonna be on the claims. The fifth mark is the claims of exclusivity. Now, some churches like the World Mission, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, they give exclusivity, but like in justification. Like if you're not coming to our church, then you won't be justified. You'll be sent to hell. You'll be condemned. You're damned. Church of Christ, if you don't get baptized, by one of our pastors or whatever, leaders, and if it's not fully dunked, then you won't be saved. You have to be, So some churches claim exclusivity for justification. Our church, we didn't really have it for justification because we were very strong on faith alone. One thing that I did enjoy about Campus Christians, about our pastors, or about a pastor, was the whole faith alone. That we were very by faith alone. Christ, imputation, all that. We had good stuff, man. So that's what's kind of weird, because we were good in theology. But we were actually exclusive in our sanctification. Like if you really want to be sanctified and do things for the Lord,
it's here. Yep.
And if you leave our church, you won't lose your salvation. You still be secured. You still be, God's people. But you be either attacked by demons, be demon possessed, because we believed in demon possession. We believe that Christians can be demon possessed. So we kind of don't believe that. Well, no, we don't believe that anymore. But Christians could be possessed. So if you leave our church, it's most likely because the devil influenced you to leave. So you're going to be attacked by demons. You won't find a good church. You're going to struggle. You're going to get the Lord's discipline and not the best. So here's the mentality. Here's what affects everything. You leave the church and you have this in your mind, like, man, the devil is going to get me. There's no other good church. So what happens? You start getting kind of like depressed. And hearing our old members, what they went through whenever they left, it's always the same story. They had no church. They were depressed because they had nowhere to go, and they started not going to church for a little bit. I have a friend in the north who kind of like opened up with me and told me some of his struggles that he went through whenever he got removed. And it's kind of dark, guys. It's very dangerous. And we claim that our church to be like the only one, if you really wanted to grow in your sanctification. So it was still kind of like a form of exclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just not in justification, but in our sanctification. Yeah. Very important.
That's kind of, scary. But we are changing a lot of this.
Yep.
In fact, we've done a lot of changes. Where if you look at us now, if you look at Harvest Baptist Church, we changed even the name.
That's our name.
We are now Harvest Baptist Church. We already got the DBA. Now we're gonna go get the EIN, and then we have to write our bylaws.
Here we come.
And that's gonna be happening later on. We already have a committee where this is kind of like the church treasurer, where treasurers, which is Josue, Donna, and you. I forgot his name.
My tattoo. Nah, I'm just kidding.
Do you have a tattoo?
Nah, I'm just playing.
What?
Tattoo?
No,
you can't get a tattoo.
Elders, me and Brandon, and we have an aspiring elder who's trying to do things, trying to be an elder. And then we also have Emmanuel Sosa as our deacon. We actually voted Sosa in. Do you remember how we voted him in? Do you remember?
No.
We had finished. I remember this day clearly, dude. It's like this day is still in my mind, like if it was yesterday. It was the confrontation day when I went to campus. Remember? And he came, and Brennan and I confronted him.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember what we did afterwards?
Yeah.
Where did we go?
We went to the Old Town Springs.
Old Springtown. We
Yeah.
went over there to Old Springtown.
Yeah, I remember that.
And man, dude, we were like, because we just did something like hurtful to us, sad. It wasn't just anger. It was sad. We had to confront one of our leaders,
I remember that.
which
day.
we truly and greatly did love, and
Dark
even to
day.
this day we still love him. But we had to confront him and remove him. And afterwards, we were all sad. We were hurt. And everybody, we all met up at Old Springstown, and we sat down in the grass. We were all sitting down.
I remember that.
Do you remember?
Yeah,
And I talked to you guys, and I asked you and Sosa if you wanted to be deacons.
I remember that.
And everybody was sitting down, and I told everybody, okay, guys, we're going to start something. All right. Brandon and I are going to be the elders, and we're going to start it. Do you guys want to do this? They're like, yes. And I told them, you have to verbally say it. Don't just nod your head up and down. Verbally say you're in agreement. So everybody said it. Then I asked them if they wanted Vasquez and Sosa to be the deacons as well. They all were saying yes. And I was like, verbally say it. And they all verbally communicated it. So Sosa became our deacon then. Vasquez stepped down from it because he wasn't ready. So he stepped down from being a deacon. But right away, we started doing changes immediately. And one of the changes that we're doing is make it a congregationalist type. It is no longer senior pastor Episcopalian type, but is now elder-led and kind of like congregationalism, where we're getting the members involved in the voting process.
Mm-hmm.
The members are going to be involved in it. And we're also going to be confessional. We're going to hold a confession. And it's not going to be a vague confession. It's going to be a detailed confession, which is, I'm not smart enough to make my own confession. And if I do make a confession, it's probably just like the LBC. So might as well just get what the Baptists have done throughout. So it's just the 1689 London Baptist Confession. And for members to be informed and aware of it, we're gonna go along with it. We're gonna read it to them and basically explain it to them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So we're doing that. We're all allowing dating to happen. So dating is open now. we are allowing members to talk to anyone that they want.
Yep.
These have to apply wisdom, of course, but they can talk to anybody they want.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Be mature, responsible.
You know, and so they can talk to people from the past if they want to. They can talk to whoever they want, even to the person that we removed. They can do whatever they want. It's we're not controlling that aspect. We're teaching them the importance of keeping elders accountable, us accountable, to like be able to come to us and express to us
their concerns.
We're communicating to them that we can't control everything from them. They have to be responsible for their own things.
Their own lives, yeah, just growing up.
And we're also helping, or at least encouraging and guiding and counseling people to find the will of God for their own lives. And like not just me telling them what I want them to do. It's me guiding them to find God's will for their lives. So we're doing a lot of changes. We're not isolated anymore. We're doing more like a network type of church. So we talk to Pastor Victor. We try to talk to other Grace Family Baptist Church with Pastor Aaron Wright here in 1960 and what's that street right? That church right there by is another Reformed Baptist behind Panda Express.
I don't remember the street, but I know it's
so
45 in 1960.
Yeah, we're talking to different churches. You know, we allow the members to read any author they want to read. You know, we actually read a book by Gordon Clark, which is a book on logic, and you did a book on
the
doctrines of
the biblical view of man, or doctrine
Gordon,
of man by Gordon Clark. That was a pretty awesome book.
And he taught it to the group, so he did a good job. So we're doing a lot of changes, guys. All right, so we've learned from our past mistakes, well, from our leaders, our church mistakes, because we didn't really partake in that. We were still responsible, but we didn't really partake in that. We're responsible because we're still, God's still going to hold us accountable.
Church is still the individuals are responsible.
And they're responsible for many lives and their decisions. Very important. But I guess like an encouragement, because, you know, I don't know if the leaders are going to be the ex-leaders. You got to, listen to this. But it's yes, it was not right. It was not healthy. But as an encouragement, because maybe there could be some possible denial of certain things, like, no, we weren't really like that. But that's how it was taken as a whole, at least with the people.
Yeah, I think if you talk to the general consensus of the members, that's how. And that's why I said, like, maybe it wasn't done intentionally by the leaders. So it was like unintentional consequences. But if you talk to the members, like I have, that you get the general consensus. That's how I felt.
And so it's not to bash them either, but to tell them, that's how they were taught. There's forgiveness in this, and we can move on from this. We can. So it's not like they're like, whether they want to deny it or whatever, there's still a healthy biblical way to deal with it after. So it's not to down them, because they did do some good stuff. Like, I was encouraged in many areas. I learned a lot. I'm greatly appreciative. There just has to be, even now, like, even though there's forgiveness and moving on, there has to be time of healing as well.
No, and now our leaders, like Vasquez and my leader, was actually different from his leader. So, like, in our experience, your leader, has been very graceful to us.
Yes, very, very.
To us, like, we cannot express how thankful we are for your leader. He's like, words cannot express how thankful I am for.
Yes, he has helped. He has helped a lot. Yep, you've helped a lot.
Like, none of this could have been done with. So our attitude today, for me, is like a father, like a big brother. So, like, this is nothing.
Big brother.
Big brother.
Like VIP, like big brother's watching me, but like a literal big brother.
Oh, I thought you meant like age. That's what
No.
Like.
So, like if I hear anybody,
Just joking.
it's something that he's helped out a lot. So
Yeah.
I know there might be a little difference, but so everything that me and Vasquez are sharing is really towards our leader, our experience. It's not, your experience was different, because we weren't really with y'all. We left, we had like a little split, not a split, but we kind of like expanded. We expanded to the
Quotes.
north, and then Vanessa, Josue, Joseph, and other members, they stayed in the south. Vasquez, me, and Brandon and other people went to the north. So it was kind of like, we were kind of like Judah, and you guys were like the Sumerians.
Yeah. But ours started changing a lot. You know, I got married and stuff like that. Language started changing. Different small changes started coming, and it was going good. It was moving towards something better.
Yeah.
And I started liking it. I mean, I think it kind of went slow, yeah, and I'm kind of like one of those fast-paced guys. Like, I'm just like, I'm ready to change this right now. You know, but overall it started changing, and you have to understand, like, these leaders were training that for years. These guys were in it for like 20 years, 20 plus, 15 plus. And so to change things rapidly is difficult. It is difficult, and for other people to come in and give suggestions or opinions on things, like it, you know, it really is hard to teach an old dog new tricks. You know, it really is, because who are you, you know, young folk, to tell someone with all the experience and stuff like that. There was some wisdom given, and that's where I always appreciate Damon. You know, help.
But anyways, we can
Go off, yeah.
we can talk about this topic forever, man.
Yeah, we can keep going on this.
But yeah, so this is not only for us, it's also for any other member out there, any other person that's going to a church that has at least 4 of these marks. Because not everything, because you can have one, but not the other. But if you have 4 of them, then you run away from that church. Don't even try to reform it, because you won't be able to.
Yeah,
run away.
you won't.
Oh, you know what? Let me change that. Try to reform it if you can, because you don't want to leave also behind the doors and without bringing concerns up. You don't want to do that either. But once you try to do things and it's still, you see like it's not like that, then you run away, you leave.
Yeah, and if you feel by yourself, try to find someone outside of the group to encourage you and let them know of these things, because the worst you could do is try to reform it or know how to bring certain things up by yourself.
Yeah,
you know, you may have difficulty speaking, bringing up your thoughts verbally.
And if you have fear that there'll be nobody out there to help you out, that there'll be nobody, don't have that fear.
Not true.
That's not true. You will have other churches. There's other Christians out there. You don't have to have everything in agreement. You know, people can still be brothers just by the sake of them believing in the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the Holy Spirit in them, and they can give you guidance. And so just don't be afraid. Don't think that you're by yourself. You're not isolated. You have many other churches out there.
You have family out there.
Yeah, with your
spiritual family out there.
And if you do have any issues, whatever, you even have social media now, man. You can send us a text, and we'll help you find a church that's good, that's out there, that's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in the Houston area, come to our church, and we'll help you out.
Yeah.
Which is what's the address of our church, man? I still haven't memorized
11010 Epson Road, like Epson
Say
Salt.
that again.
Say it again. But say it slowly and say it by individual words.
11010 Epson Road, Houston, Texas 770. I forgot the zip code.
Man, I need to learn this because I'm like one of the pastors. I don't even know.
I need to learn it too.
My goodness, but it's 1100. Okay, whatever.
11,010.
11,010. All right.
Okay.
So, but it's on 59 in Little York. So, anyways,
59 Little York.
Yeah, go there, man, and
we'll be happy to see you.
We would love to see you guys. But that's about it. And all right, well, peace out.
Deuce.